I got to
And
ask you, before we even talk about testosterone, what do you put in your hair to keep it like that?
Johnny Slick's pomade.
There you go.
So
So my go-to was when I had hair many, 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 many years ago. I have like this curly, wavy hair. So like before I lost it, like I used to actually have nice hair when I was younger, and then I started playing around with juice, and then it just gradually got worse and worse, and then it was just gone. But in the interim, when it was like getting wavy and shit, I used to use this kiwi wax because I used to rock spiky hair like the fucking Jersey Shore guys. Believe it or
yeah.
not, imagine me with hair. And to get it to stay up, I used to use this fucking wax that would make it stay up. And dude, if it got on anything, it would like ruin clothes. And like I was losing my hair then, so like it would be like stuck with wax and hair in my shirt and shit the next morning. Anyway, little funny off story. But yeah, that's how you got into it pretty much. With
Yeah,
the
because dealing with so many guys, like the conversation would always turn from, well, how do I hit the ball farther to like, oh, how do I get abs? How do I fill out my shirt? And I'm just like, man, no one's really taking this on. And then obviously performance on the course turns to performance everywhere in the bedroom, in the gym and everything. And hormones was always a topic of discussion. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to learn everything about
you learned
testosterone,
about that,
everything
yeah.
about men's health. And here we are. That was like 2008. So here we are, 2024. And basically that's been my thing. And being a female in the men's health space is so weird to so many people that I just embrace it and
You should.
basically try to spread the message for men's health and for men to be heard and for them to be understood. Because as you know, there's so many stigmas attached to testosterone replacement and people don't
So
understand
many.
it. A lot of fears and all that. And for women, like if they go on hormone replacement, like no one gives a fuck. But for guys, it's like, oh, you're cheating. It's
Yeah,
bad.
I know.
Die.
So like people like they have such lack of knowledge of what testosterone actually is. I always explain it and say it's like oil for an engine for a man. Okay, it makes you run. So it's funny. I was actually asking a friend who's into sales, and he's a high level athlete. He was a Division I wrestler and stuff, but which I don't get. He doesn't know anything about food and even less about testosterone. So he's 40 years old now, and I was asking him, I was like, he's telling me he has all the low symptoms of T, tired, this and that, getting fatter. And I kept circling back around. I'm like, I don't understand. Why wouldn't you be open to even just considering to doing it? Wouldn't you want to feel like you're 26 again? But then it kept circling around because people tie I'm like, dude, it's not black tar heroin. It's medicine. It's a naturally. Do you understand what I mean, Dick? People tie it's a drug. Like a drug, like you fucking break out tinfoil and start smoking the shit out of fucking like tinfoil. I'm like, dude, it's a hormone. It's something that naturally occurs in your body. Why wouldn't you want to be optimal? I'm not talking about super physiological. I'm talking about being 26 forever. Once I say that, then they kind of understand more. Some people can't break over that though. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my God, totally. And because it comes in a needle, even though obviously there's a cream, but like because it's a needle, like it gets associated and thrown in as the same thing as steroids and anabolic steroids and all that stuff. And guys are like, I'm cheating. I'm like, well, what are you cheating at? Life? Like
Yeah.
literally. And it's something that really bothers them. And so it's discussing with them how they take supplements for the rest of their lives. They take, if they had to be on thyroid hormone or if they had to be on a life-saving medication every day for the rest of their lives, that does not come in a needle. It's so, positioned much differently. And they do have a hard time with the whole it's for life and the fact that it's like, oh, it's in a needle, like that's scary.
And these are the same people who would shoot Monjaro or semaglutide and call testosterone cheating. But since they could lose weight easily because they don't have to try to not eat and discipline enough to deprive themselves from eating a fucking cheesecake, but since it's working for them and it's easy, they don't consider that cheating. If anything, that's absolutely cheating because you're cheating yourself of the victory of depriving yourself and the fulfillment of it. I'm like, you lazy motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm being dead ass serious. I'm like, I don't understand this. I'm like, you're shooting this to lose weight just because it's easier than trying to maybe stay on a diet. What people also don't understand is that, and obviously this, is that most of the weight loss from these drugs is what, Allie? What's most of the weight loss from those drugs?
temporary
Temporary, but it's
muscle.
muscle tissue. Okay. And what I
Yeah.
have to explain to them is when you lose muscle, you're actually slowing down your metabolism. In essence, you're actually getting fatter because more of the percentage of your body is fucking fat. That's why you look like the walking death, these people who don't stay on top of their protein. Or they go, I'm just not going to eat. I'm going to have a few drinks on the weekend and eat a fucking whatever in the middle of the day. At the end of it, yeah, you lost weight, you lost muscle mass, which burns more calories, and you look like a fucking zombie. You look worse at the end of it. Your skin's empty and shit. I only know 2 people actually use the drug correctly, all right? And I'm not against using it as a kickstart, and you'll probably agree with me. They used it because they're athletes and they know what they're doing. They used the drug as a temporary fix, all right? But they stayed on top of their protein intake. Yes, it curbed their appetite. They drank their protein shakes. They ate a couple light protein meals, and then when they were done and got to the weight they wanted to, they stopped and have never touched it again. What do most people do when they do the drug? If they do stop it, they're going to return right back to their fucking horrible habits, eating fucking bagels and cheeseburgers, and blow up again.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I'm not against it either. I've actually used Manjaro or tirzepatide for a cut. I've had guys who've used it for a cut, but like the maximum time they've spent on it is maybe 3 months. And it's literally just to take the edge off, but there is still some suffering, and there is some form of accomplishment when you're like, I am hungry, but I know how to ignore it and like deter it and just diet. But you're right. Like the people who go on it as the quick fix and then they ignore the fact that you do have to take in protein. Like it is so crucial.
Absolutely.
So definitely.
I was going to wait for this part to talk about is because I'm going through that now. So
Going through what?
I'm enjoying the deprivation of food right now. So I haven't turned it up on myself in a while. I always walked around shredded. And even my out of shape is someone's best shape. But I'm neurotic and nuts, and I like to be absolutely peeled. But, I had the little bit of dad, but not really. Like, I'm nuts. I wouldn't even go away and take off my shirt like that, which is fucking whatever. But I like to be, I like to be super, super peeled. So I'm finally getting to there. But I'm eating food right now out of only nutrition. I don't like it. It's okay. I could put it down. I've eaten way worse in the past. And I tell people, if you can't lose weight today, you're fucking fucked. You have no idea what I used to do. I used to eat cold fish and drink water and try to get down cold rice. You know what I'm talking about. I'm like, they have so many things now. If you can't get shredded, you have no hope. Anyway, the point of what I'm making, I'm so regimented. I'm so into it now, and I see the results I'm getting. The enjoyment is the deprivation of it. Knowing I'm staying away from it, I'm seeing the results, and it's self-rewarding, I guess is the word you want to use, but it feels good to do it. You know what I mean? I was trying to explain, it's hard. I like doing it because it's hard. I was explaining this to one of my in-person clients, and you grew up in where? Greenwich, so I know you know what I'm talking about. There's a group of people this soft, and and I hope he listens to this because I try to motivate the motherfucker. And I'm like, stop picking up your shirt. You're fat. He's like, I'm not that fat. I'm like, I would not be your friend if I didn't tell you were fat. Anybody who tells you you're not fat is not your friend. How do you feel when you go with your family? I feel okay. Well, you shouldn't because you're fucking fat and there's no reason. He's lazy. I try to get him to walk. But any which way, right? I was trying to tell him about the depriving yourself aspect and not eating it, looking at it and not eating it and choosing this. He couldn't get his head over that. I was like, that's the enjoyment of it. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying. Doing something.
We're twisted and warped and we enjoy that, deprivation. Because you'll get hungry and then it subsides. And then there's like, you have control over it. People just deter away from things that are hard. Like you're supposed to be hungry. Dieting is controlled starvation. Like your body does not want to do it. And if you have body fat that needs to go, you're using fat, like you're using calories that you have stored on you that you haven't used yet. So let your body go through that, because when you get to the level that you and I like to live at, it's a lot easier to maintain. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that once you get through that hard part, it is really fucking easy to maintain for the whole year. Because people, I'm sure they say it to you, they say it to me, they're like, how do you stay lean all year? I'm like, it's really easy. You don't eat like a jackhole, and you can actually eat like more calories at certain times, and then you could get away with having a donut here and there, and it doesn't like
Affects you.
demolish your progress.
So
I mean,
I simplify, and I've been using this term for years. You have to get on the horse to be able to fall off. So once you're on the horse riding, you can fall off and get right back on easy. You just got to get to learn how to ride the horse. That's the difficult part that people don't want to do. You know what I mean? So we've been saying that since the 90s, me and my friends, you know, and back then I loved telling the story. I used to have like one condiment, eat fucking, you know, I used to mix oatmeal and turkey burger together. That was the best thing ever, you know, but, about the, yeah.
I did a reel on this, like shit that I used to do to get shredded. It's like tilapia and asparagus, which was every woman had to live on that. But I would put Splenda on it. I would put cinnamon on it.
I heard you say it on a podcast. You're crazy. I never tried that. I'm like, when you're putting Splenda on vegetables, you're hurting for stuff.
When you literally don't have any of that shit, like it was delicious. And people are coming at me. You don't have to do that anymore to get shredded. I know. I'm talking years ago.
You know, but the thing is, like, you're ripped year round, right? You're in very good shape year round. One, why I decided to do this was I want to look like my brand. I have to represent my brand, which is impossible. I like to look like this. Extra veiny, extra hard. I'm not big anymore, nor do I want to be. I want to look like that ripped athlete. But what's easier, being shredded or being a big bloated mess? Being shredded's harder. You know what I mean? So having that six-pack like a 300 warrior, that's what's impressive to somebody. Because when I see six-pack on somebody, that means dedication and hard work. You can't fucking buy that. You know what I'm saying? Even with Monjaro, most people with Monjaro, they're not dedicated enough to not do it. So they're just a slimmer version of fat. You know what I mean? Anybody who's using Monjaro is like, this motherfucker right now bashing me. Right? Anyway, let's circle back to testosterone. So I get a ton of DMs about tests, dosages, and whatever, right? And I've always been very consumed with the hormone aspect. Even when I was in like middle school, or even like high school, right? I would go down to the nurse's office and read about hormones, which is crazy. And like the medical books, like actually read. There was no phones then, you know? If I had a good guidance counselor who would just fucking guided me to science instead, I wanted to be in a romper room with all my boys that were like half knuckleheads, you know, and I would have been an endocrinologist or whatever. You know, off story, right? I'm going to tell a little story. My audience loves stories. So I was not a good student. I just wasn't, all right? Maybe I'll send to hear this and whatever, right? And it was 10th or 11th grade English. And we had to do, I was the guy who sat in the back. I didn't really do shit. I cut class. I had so many detentions one year, they rolled over to the next one, right? Not even skip school. So Mr. Magnuson, it was a project to do something like a tutorial on the board and explain about whatever it was, right? And I picked my topic was protein synthesis, testosterone, whatever. I just was drawing it out, chalkboard, not a smartboard, chalk back then. I remember he looked at me, he was like, who the fuck are you? The whole class was like, I went from being the guy with my hat pulled over my head to like a science professor in like 2 seconds, whatever. Amazing. Yeah, that was my lane though. But anyway, I got a shit ton of DMs about testosterone, whatever. And someone recently asked me about testosterone gel, okay? Yeah. I simply put on the totem pole, you know, gel would be the bottom of the list. Then like they got the stupid pellet thing. And how I know this is from people's feedback, you know? And you also have to think about common sense and logical. What's not common? Common sense is a common. And I said the most optimal ways to inject it. And I guess they ask questions or whatever. What's your view on this as in terms of, and for what you see from the research on gel to pellets and whatever, you know, what's your view on it and what results have you come back with?
So because testosterone is something that is naturally produced, it's very difficult to put a patent on a naturally produced hormone. So creating alternative delivery methods is the way to monetize it. And that's why there's all these delivery methods popping up. You know, they have nasal sprays now, they have oral pills now. So all of them are a little bit higher price tag than the best form, which is injections. So injections are what are more scary. A lot of guys don't like dealing with the needles and everything, but the injection literally just gets right in you, and it's very easy to change the dosage if necessary quite quickly. And there's a reason why we don't hear about androgel pretty much anymore, except in Canada, it actually still gets prescribed, which drives me nuts because I have a lot of Canadian followers and clients, and they're like, yeah, I was prescribed androgel and I feel like shit. I'm like, I know. So the problem with the androgel, it just does not get absorbed very well, and it's just hot garbage, basically.
Yeah, no.
So the thing with the pellets too is that yes, it's easy because you don't have to think about it, but it is invasive, it's expensive, and somebody your size versus somebody my size are going to metabolize it completely different. And the only way to change the dosage of the pellet is to go back in, change the pellet, and then hope that it actually metabolizes well and the person feels good. Guys will usually feel good for the first like 3 to 4 months, and then shit goes sideways. So it's not a very optimal delivery method. So the injections in the cream is really the top two that are most used by competent practitioners and that guys feel the best on. And with injection frequency, again, those protocols sometimes can be antiquated where they'll be like, yeah, I'm on one injection every 2 weeks. I don't really feel so good. That's because that's way too infrequent to inject. Yeah, guys do very well on like 2 to 3 times a week is kind of the most popular. So anyone who says they didn't feel great on injections usually does not have a very good protocol on it. And that's why, because they're having this great spike and then they just feel like shit by the next shot. So that's understandable.
So,
and yeah.
So what's even crazier is this. I have friends, you know, because when I was younger, I was a gas head and I used to take juice, like really like steroids, and I was a bodybuilder, but I never really went crazy abusing it. But I've used a few compounds. I definitely was unhealthy. I never went for blood work. But now later in my 40s, the same friends who are gas heads with me, the little knowledge they have, they never had a desire to educate themselves. And you know, now they're talking to me, whatever, and, you know, they went to doctors for their, you know, testosterone replacement. They came back low. And he goes, yeah, he's like, you know, I go to the doctor and he started to explain. I know it. I don't ask them what they're doing. They just tell me on TRT. I don't ask exactly what protocol. He's like, yeah, I go to the doctor. He gives me 3 cc's once a month. I was like, wait, what? A doctor does this? I'm like, how could a medical practitioner not even just know the understanding of even just the ester of how short or how long it is? So I'm like, let me guess, you feel really good for about 10 to 12 days, and then you feel like shit by like the last 10. He's like, exactly. And I'm like, one, I say, how does the doctor not know this? And two, I'm like, how do you not know this? That's like ABC shit for testosterone, is to know how to inject it. So like in reality though, like what you're saying, a lot of people don't like needles and injecting. It never bothered me, and some people could. I could put like a fucking needle through my hand and it wouldn't even bother me. But I tell guys like the most optimal way is, you know, multiple times, a couple times a week, or even like if you want to space it out to be super even your blood. I've seen results with guys where they administer the drug, wait 3 days, and administer again so they don't peak and rise too much. Or if you want to be super even, because you know the days fall uneven if you do that, I say Monday, Friday, Monday, Thursday. Always start low and then go high. Because you always treat symptoms. Everybody has a different androgenic response. Everybody's different enzymatic conversions and whatever. I go, because if you start high, you could have side effects you don't need. Somebody's very androgen sensitive. I've seen this. I know guys take as little as 80 to 100 milligrams, and then they try to 120. They're fucking super ramped up. That almost sounds impossible to me, or crazy, because my body's so acclimated to androgens that I need more. And my blood work comes back good. But someone who's never done it before, 100 to 120 is perfect for them. So I always tell me, like, what's a good dose to start? I'm like, start low and then work up. Yep. You agree with me, of course, I know. Just explaining stuff that you know. So now, HCG. This is another one I always get asked about. What, in your opinion, is the importance of it for men at a certain stage?
So there's a joke that I run with this because HCG can do 2 things. It can help preserve fertility, and it can also maintain testicular hypertrophy, because when you have an exogenous hormone, your body and your testicles are going to be like, oh, cool, I'm getting testosterone from here. I don't need to produce it from my balls. So we're just going to shrink. And a lot of guys struggle with that. And I always tell them, we don't care as women. It makes everything else look bigger. And like, women don't put on their dating profile, like, I love a big teabag sack. Like, that's like my, like, I've never heard that, you know? So But I understand it's a thing, and in the gay community, apparently it's a bigger thing. So they, guys, they like it. So that will help maintain that because the activity in the testicles.
I say more for this for guys, right? I said there's certain dosages that you implement into your body. Depends what you want to do. If you want to keep the testosterone stable in your balls for cosmetic reasons, X. If you want to for fertility, that's a different dose. Or if you want to even have like testosterone replacement therapy, there's different stages. A clomiphene, you could do HCG alone, or then the next stage is testosterone. Even to revert back to that, when someone's in need of testosterone replacement and they come back low, I don't say just right off the bat go start shooting the shit. I go, let's try this, and then the last would be injecting testosterone, But in that sense, I always tell guys, I go, listen, even if you are running HCG for fertility, to preserve, doesn't mean you're not fucking up your endocrine system. You're still damaging to a certain parameter. So, and guys who cycle on and off, I tell them, I go, the human body is not a mechanical mechanism. Even if a switch, the more times you turn it on and off, it's going to wear out. It might turn on 1, 2, 3, 5 times good. Then the 6th time, it ain't going to turn on so good. You know what I'm saying? So really, I tell guys to implement HCG, these younger guys who are adamant about using test, which I tell them don't use test. There are other compounds, wait. And you got to put in HCG just to keep fertility, because you're going to meet a girl one day. You may say now, I don't want kids, fuck that. And then there's going to come a time when you're like, I want kids. And then you're going to be like, fuck, I wish I took that stuff, just to keep it stable. Go. So I tell these younger guys, I go, you guys are fucking lucky you have me to tell you this. I go, I didn't have this. I had fucking some guy down the block was selling me halotestin at 20. You know what I mean? He didn't give a fuck. He had his fucking Z Cavaricci's on with his chain. He's all jacked up. That's what I had. I didn't have me guiding me, so.
Yeah. And I mean, there are options. And I always encourage guys to get a sperm test done before going on anything, and maybe 6 months into if they're on testosterone, because guys who are on TRT alone and guys who are on TRT and HCG, there is almost like an equal level of ability to conceive. Guys can still conceive on testosterone. It's just if they don't get a sperm test done and then they go on testosterone and then they see that they're not producing a lot, they blame the testosterone when they could have had an issue beforehand. So it's definitely very important to get that situated, because if they need testosterone, I personally think that is a good idea to move forward with. And they can always bring in FSH, which is a very powerful medication, a little bit better, I would say, than HCG. Not every guy does well on HCG because it can be a little bit cause them to have like some mood swings and just not feel so great on it. So they can intervene with something else throughout their TRT journey, so to speak, because it is important to get everything dialed in before they become a father. You want to go into fatherhood being a confident, optimal testosterone man. So a lot of practitioners, though, and it's specifically like endocrinologists and fertility doctors will say, well, you have to come off testosterone. And that's not true either, because there's plenty of guys that have shown that they have the ability to conceive. They just don't necessarily have access or know how to implement things like FSH or even HMG, which are used in fertility protocols. They're more expensive than HCG, but so there are.
My view on that is if someone's serious about having children and conceiving children, I say stop the test if you're serious, because I find that it's not definitive that you could definitely have conceived children while using testosterone replacement, even with the drugs of HCG, HMG, which is follicle stimulating hormone, clomiphene citrate, whatever, right? So I say if you're really serious and you're 100% in, not like a percentage that you might not, I'd say come off the test, okay? HCG, FSH, that could intervene a little bit, okay, the testosterone, and override the full sperm production. So I say HCG, HMG, which I call is like almost like the nitrous at the finish line for motility and sperm production. Okay. And then when you're ready there, you got the count up, because when you get your count up, they're not always swimming perfect. Then bang, the HMG is like the finish line to the race. And then I have like 9 successful pregnancies, which I guide a guy. I'm like a fertility doctor.
And the cool thing is that like we can both express our opinions, agree to disagree, and not block each other. I mean, amazing,
Right.
you know, everybody argues this shit and it's like, yeah, everyone's entitled to see things differently. And I think it's important for discussion because you can ask 10 different people in this space what their perspective is on fertility protocols, you'll get 10 different answers.
Yeah.
So they could all be right, they could all be wrong, you know?
You
So
know,
it's so confusing out there for guys sometimes. And so it's important to have these discussions so that they do know their options. Because like you said earlier, they'll be told something from one doctor and just believe everything that one doctor says.
and I
And
always tell guys, you have to be careful of what doctor you choose because more
yep,
doctors now don't know than know today. So you and I, all right, are very versed in this subject and we know what we're talking about. And like, if we speak to a doctor, I'll be honest, I'm going to just talk the way I do. Most doctors don't fuck with me with this. Even though I
yeah,
don't know anything about how to like heal a rash or like what you need an antibiotic for really. But when it comes to hormones, no, don't fuck with me. They know not
yeah,
to because this is my lane, you know?
yeah,
But
yeah.
so for testosterone, right? And I'm just going to talk about my experience. And I used underground shit, obviously, in the back. They don't make fucking pharmaceutical Masteron, obviously, anymore. It's been
Not
discontinued
anymore. Yeah.
for 30 years, right? And these are all medications. Are discontinued because they're replaced by better medications. But for like the American pharmaceutical testosterones or even like the compounding clinics, there is a difference in dosages. Even though it's 200 milligrams, I know there is definitive, okay? Because I've taken the underground stuff and it's not overdosed or whatever. And then I went to inject something like a big pharma like Pfizer and I did a higher volume of oil. It's the same milligram. And it was like I came off. It was like my buddy. I was like, holy shit. Yeah. So it's like, and then there's other pharmacies that sell a different brand of testosterone, and then it's
Yeah.
definitely stronger. So that's the comparison. So like what I'm asking you is, do you find this at all, or do you come across this of what I'm saying? Different levels of strength or potency between the pharmaceutical testosterones.
Yes and no. I think it's more prevalent in guys who are on underground stuff and then they switch and then they keep thinking they need more and more and more just because they're not waiting out the period for everything to stabilize. And they were on 350 milligrams when they didn't really need to be on 350. And now maybe they're on like 150 to 200 and they're just like, what just happened, but they're injecting more frequently and they just have to be patient. That's
You
all.
have to
But
let your body normalize and get adjusted to that. You know, so one of my online clients, like last year, was telling me he went to a clinic and you know they were injecting with 700 milligrams of testosterone. I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, no wonder you felt great. And then when he went to another clinic and they told him what they were doing, that's crazy. They inject him
Yeah.
with 200. So I'm like, dude, even though they're injecting with administering 200 milligrams, that drop off is such a dramatic cliff dive. They didn't graduate you down. Your body didn't acclimate to that drop. He feels like shit and he can't get it back. I'm like, the correct clinic would have been like, let's take you down. Even though you're at 700, test your levels. They would probably be at like 20,000, right? Got to come down in stages. It takes time to do that. That's almost like simple and just logical. I'm like, even though your levels right now are probably like 1050, you're going to feel bad for a while because your body didn't acclimate to it and they dropped you so fast. You know, your estrogen's probably through the ceiling and whatever, you know. So another thing I was going to actually ask you is your opinion, and I know what I think, is that I've always like with the differences between CP8 and the Anate ester. Okay, CP8 is primarily prescribed here in the United States, and Anate in in Europe, whatever, right? The ester in my body doesn't meaning this. What's what I'm looking for? I feel better on CP8. My body does not respond well to the Anate ester. Now, I really do have a question of why. Could you tell me why?
No, honestly, I'm not going to pull an answer out of my ass, but I find the same with a lot of guys that now I will say some guys do experience more water retention on cypionate versus enanthate. And I don't know the explanation for that, but honestly, Some guys just feel better on one versus the other. It could be the carrier oil that it's in.
I
So
I think the water retention, all American pharmaceutical compounds hold water for some odd reason, and I don't know the exact answer. So I know this when I used to get paper shredded, which I'm getting back to. And my thing was, my show was I'd always go to these Las Vegas pool parties. And I'd rock out and be like, you thought you're in shape? I'm in shape, motherfucker. Right? And they'd be like, fuck, look at this guy. But one year, I took the pharmaceutical test, and I'm like, yo, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, why am I holding so much, like a shimmer of water? I wish I was in that shape now. And I'm talking to my buddy. He's like, dude, it's that test. I said, are you serious? He goes, yeah, it's the American shit. It's very fluid retentive. And I just don't know why. I've tried to research. I think it might be some additive, a co-solvent to the medication. I'm not really sure. But,
yeah.
I'm almost asking you to searching for answers for myself. Maybe you knew,
Well, a lot of the carrier oil I do think is a thing to be of consideration, because not all guys, some guys have allergic reactions with spot injecting with the cottonseed oil. But a lot of companies are now using MCT oil when they did not in the US, but they did more so in Europe. So I think a lot of guys feel like it's a cleaner version of testosterone is really the best way to explain it, because they don't necessarily feel the same water retention issues.
On which oil that you said again? Was the MCT oil?
MCT oil, yeah.
Really? So I always know when you read it's always like sesame oil or cottonseed oil.
Yeah.
So you think actually the carrier oil could be something to holding the water retention?
Yeah, it could be.
Possibly.
Could also be placebo effect too.
Maybe. So I saw a couple of my boys and like a couple of my clients, they still snowboard regular. And I'm combing through the gram and I saw you snowboard,
Yeah.
And where'd you go snowboarding, by the way? Where was that?
Mammoth in California.
Yeah. So these guys are like real snowboarders. And, he goes out to like Colorado, and a couple of times one of these other guys, he just went to Alaska, and he was telling me, dude, he goes, it's fucking insane. He goes, I'm like a double expert level, whatever. He goes, that's not for the average Joe. And he goes, what they do he spent it was like 15 grand or some shit for this. He goes, what they do, he goes, they're motherfuckers. He goes, I paid 15 grand for this. And he goes, 2 days out of like the 5, they couldn't take me up to this certain mountain, whatever. And then what they do they almost hang a carrot in front of your face. They take you to this certain area. They fly a helicopter. He goes, yeah, if you guys want to go on that's 35 grand. And people will pay that. I'm like, are you serious? He goes, yeah, bro. People pay 35 grand for 5 days. He goes, that's it. Oh, and this is the other area here. But if you want that's 35,000,
I'm dying to do that. I did pay for heliboarding in British Columbia. It was not 35 grand. I want to say it was like maybe 2 grand or something. But the helicopters couldn't fly because of the fog that day. I was so pissed. But I learned exactly how to dig somebody out of an avalanche if we have that problem. So funny story though. Like I did an experiment where like snowboarding, I've been doing it since I was 12. So I literally go hard. I was like, I'm just going to eat whatever the fuck I want as much as I can. And I literally had 2 huge bowls of cereal with Oreos in it every morning. I had a burger and fries every night. I literally had protein bars, everything I could get my hands on throughout those 2 days. And I lost weight. And I was like, it's cool because it's like 3,000 calories, and you burn so much riding. And I was like, I don't care what I was eating candy. I was eating everything. And I was just like, listen, when you're leaner, you could get away with that stuff. Like, it was so funny. Like the comments on my IG stories, they're just like, how do you eat that? And you don't crash or you don't like feel horrible. I'm like, because I have abs.
Well, one, also because when you're snowboarding the way you do, you probably adrenaline's going, you're moving, you're not going to feel like shit. If you were sedentary, you'd feel like shit. And I'm really glad you brought this up about calories, right? So I get asked all kinds of shit all the time. And I said, calories is just a measurement of energy expenditure. And I always tell my clients, I go, and when actually, when I build diets, I try to omit some certain things initially because they're like, oh my God, the carbs are so low. And in their mind, like, oh my God, I'm gonna be tired. I have no carbs. I'm like, yo, motherfucker, look down. You haven't seen your penis in a while. See all that right there? That's energy. Don't worry. You're good for a while, buddy. All right?
Exactly.
I make a joke of it, but you know what I'm saying, right? So someone
Yeah.
asked me like, oh, if you eat 60,000 calories and you burn, no, I said, yeah, bro. Like if you eat 60,000 calories of something, that's 60,000 calories of steak or carbs or whatever it is. Yes, it's not as insulin spiking protein, obviously, but if you eat too many calories, it's going to sit if you don't burn it. Okay. So then someone's like, I gave him the example of Michael Phelps. You know, if you know the
Yep.
story, Michael Phelps, a swimmer, he was eating really clean and he could sustain his workouts. He had to eat the way you just said. You know, so I was trying to get people to understand the idea of if you're going to burn that much, you have to fuel your workouts, you know? And his workouts were so demanding, the only way he could sustain that level of intensity is by eating pasta, pizza, and garbage. You know, that's an Olympic athlete, of course, you know? And that's another thing, like, I've come full to this too. When I go to get shredded, I'm like, I'm going to eat this way and exercise more. So therefore, I'm on exercise, I'm blowtorching the candle at birth ends, and it's no good. I end up getting skinnier, flatter, with no energy. So I tell guys either do two things: cut it back a little bit on the food and exercise more. Don't ramp it up so hard on both ends because you're going to melt out. You know what I mean? Because if you cut the calories in this too much and then you're going to do 2 hours of this, you're going to totally fry out. So if you're going to either dedicate to the hard diet, you know what I mean? Increase the exercise, or vice versa. You know what I'm saying. You agree with me?
Totally. Oh yeah. I find a lot of guys overdo it, especially the guys that you and I are dealing with where, you know, if they're under 18% body fat, like you're on your way to getting more visible abs. You might have like a 2-pack by then, but then they're like, well, I just have to slash calories. And so they go way overboard with doing that, increasing the amount of exercise, especially cardio. And then they burn out and they feel like shit. And then they feel skinny fat and they feel small and then flat. And so then they go on like their emergency bulk. And then they're like, well, I gotta like get back all the muscle I lost. And the problem, as you know, like anything catabolic, like losing fat, very easy, very fast. Gaining muscle is very slow. Really fucking slow. So you have to be patient with that because it is a process. So you can't force your body to lose fat faster, just like you can't force it to grow muscle faster. So it is being patient with that whole process. But yeah, calories become very confusing for men because a lot of them are afraid of carbohydrates. A lot of them go the keto carnivore route. And that might work until it doesn't. And if you're over 20% body fat, absolutely, we do that with guys too. Go very low carb, get the body fat off because you're not going to tolerate carbs when you have all that inflammatory fat tissue. And then you slam them with carbs as they get leaner. And that's why you can get away with things like Oreos and cereal. And like cereal is like the most demonized thing. And it's really what guys have to take in. When you get beyond, I would say 250 to 300 grams of carbs, it's very difficult to get in with white rice and potatoes and all that
No,
stuff.
you got to eat the shitty stuff.
Yeah, you have to incorporate that. I was in the cereal aisle at Whole Foods the other day and some dude walked by. He's like, you're too jacked to eat this garbage. And I was like, I actually eat cereal every day, bro. I was like, it helps. And he's like, how many calories should I eat? And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, what's your email? I'll send you an invoice.
I get asked questions all the time, like all the time.
Yeah.
But like
I was like, really?
what you were saying
right
the
now?
other day, like I'm feeling, you know, I'm so in tune with my body as you are. I was so depleted the whole day. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have 2 cups of white rice, threw it in my like, you know, low fat, healthy Chipotle thing I make. And I'm like, yo, I still feel it. I go, I know if I have just 2 cups of rice, it's not going to do it. I had literally probably 3/4 of a box of Honey Nut Cheerios before. And then when I woke up, I was leaner. You know, I tell
How
people
cool.
that I know it's
Like we know, like it's, you can't explain it. You just know, and you know the spillover point, but you know, like up until that, you're just like, one bowl is not going to cut it. You got to have another one. And then literally the veins come out, you go to bed, you come up, you lose weight. It's like the coolest effect.
well, people they don't understand that until they're at that point, and then you get to really feel it and then understand your body. You know, and
I love when our guys, like they start to get veins and then they send us photos and they're like, I have a new vein. Like it's the coolest thing. I love it.
you know, it really works well when you're lean, or even like you don't even have to be that lean. Like when you're getting there, I tell you they're so depleted. I go eat this, this, and this. I'm talking like maple syrup and shit, and they actually pull it all into their cells and look better, and you know, because it makes your body look tighter and fuller. You know, so anyways,
Real
just
meathead.
yeah. I mean, listen, so many people have such lack of knowledge on diet, and I just try to help guys just to understand, and help guys how to get leaner in this, and I try to simplify things. That's what I was going to say before, is like when people try to lose weight, and you and I have been doing this for so long that like it's hard for me to tell everyone all the little tricks that I know and do. You know what I mean? Like, so I could look in my fridge in 1 second, and I always say, dude, I could diet at 7-Eleven even if I work there. I could eat pretty good there and stay pretty good shape. People can't get around that. I always tell guys, I go, dude, you guys make losing weight and being in shape such a fucking giant mountain. It's not that bad. If you just cut certain things out and eat this way, and you do it in stages. You know what I mean? You don't have to and I always say about my brother-in-law, but now he's actually losing weight because he finally listened to me, and he knows that you don't have to just eat this and this, and now he's being sensible about it. I go, yeah, bro. I go, what you were doing before ain't working. You don't have to just eat eggs, whites, this. Do this and this, and it'll come off. Instead of eating cupcakes and fucking an egg sandwich for breakfast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Says low battery. Anyways, yeah. How long have you been doing this anyway, Ali? The men with men's wellness.
I want to say like 2011, 2012 is really when I started specializing in it. So about 10 years, but 20 years coaching. And I coached in person for about 18. And then I've been strictly online for the last.
Me coaching people with men's wellness and health, like trying to adjust men and to feel optimal. It was funny that I was going to say this before, that most men, and even around here, they think just jamming needles in their body, they're going to start feeling better. But really it's a lifestyle change. You got to start eating better, working out, doing that shit. Listen, they do all this. What do they do now? It's, biohacking, whatever that is. No, yeah, you're touching your feet on the grass and shit and sun. Yeah, that's going to work too a little. How about eating and exercising first? And, some people can't walk around the grass barefoot. Not everybody has the ability to dive in fucking 32-degree water for 6 minutes in the morning. Have you ever tried that, by the way?
No, I did lay in the snow out of the hot tub in Mammoth last week, and I lasted like 5 seconds. I didn't like that. So
a friend of mine actually does it every morning, and he says he's been doing it like his whole life. And before it became like a thing, And he has a house out in the Hamptons here in Long Island. And even in the winter, he would go jump in for like 30, 40 seconds. And he goes, dude, I just knew I felt so good for the rest of the day. And now all this other stuff comes out about stem cells and fucking your body's in defense that's going to die and whatever, But I get up so goddamn early with the kids. I'm like, I don't really, and I'm up so late working. I'm like, to me to jump in water for fucking 7 minutes in the morning, I'll do it on certain days, just not every day,
And I'm sure it would be a fantastic alternative to the energy drink that I love every morning.
What do you drink?
So I have a fridge strictly of energy drinks. I love the Gorilla Mind ones. I got a C4 on my desk here. Most fitness pros are stimulant junkies. And when you grow up going to Crowbar and Pasha every week, you're used to the stimulants.
Yeah.
You can handle a lot of them.
I know people they're like, I'm trying to cut out coffee. I'm like, yeah, good luck. That is never happening for me. I just drank 2 cups before I came here. I had 2 cups in the morning, and I'll go to Starbucks later. I'll be honest, to sustain the amount that I have to do, it's got to be fueled by something. You know what I mean?
100%.
100%. So all these people are like, you don't drink caffeine, bro? I'm like, but to that also, right? My brother-in-law, as fat as he was or is or whatever he is, he works like a beast. That motherfucker, he snow plows during the winter, and he's up for 2 days straight. He never drank coffee in his life. So with that being said, I'm like, maybe because you never fucked up your adrenal glands, mine are probably mashed potatoes right now.
Yeah.
I need something because I'd probably be sleeping here right now. But maybe because he never put this in his body, he could sustain a certain amount of energy. I think for someone like you and I to try to stop that shit now would be doomsday. We'd be fucked.
Oh my God.
Right?
I would need to be not allowed to do work or anything for a couple of days. And even then I don't know how it would function. And I laugh because I'm there's a lot of influencers? I don't even know what to call them that are, preaching sunlight and no caffeine and all that stuff. I'm like, how about reality and the fact that like I own the fact that I use energy drinks on the daily basis. I will take Adderall. I will do what I need to do to get done what I have to get done. I don't drink alcohol, but it's usually the people that are drinking tons of alcohol that are, giving me shit for doing all these things.
Dude.
And I'm like, no, it's who I am.
Dude,
I'm not
craziest thing. I go, hold on a second. I go, you won't take testosterone, but you will eat Five Guys and be enormously fat. I go, what the fuck are we talking about right now? I go, do you even know what you're saying? I go, I'm like, that's like, it's like, again, lack of knowledge. And I guess what's mainstream, whatever. And you and I just on top of our shit, I guess. So,
back in the day, like my mom taught me, she raised me to be able to tease out of love and have a sense of humor. And that is like a lost thing now, because no matter whether my delivery sucks of sarcasm, I don't give a fuck. Like literally people just can't laugh about things. And we have been making the same jokes in the gym for years. But now it's like everyone's just gotten really soft and upset about it. And then they attack my appearance. And I'm like, I am not attacking people's looks. I am literally saying, don't wear gloves in the gym. Don't wear toe shoes. Like, stuff as an industry that we've all kind of poked fun at. Have some fun, people. And it's like, how dare you judge people? You're the reason I don't go to the gym. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, wow. I was like, where did this come from? And they're tagging, Joey. And I'm just like, I think he might understand that this is a joke. And I'm not actually going up to somebody physical in the gym and being like, oh, what a horrible person you are for using, the bar tampon for your squats.
The bar tampon. So with the gloves, I always tell guys simply, I'm like, dude, okay, great, wear gloves. I think I would never wear gloves. My hands are permanently calloused from all years of construction. I actually had someone go to pick up something the other day, like, oh my God, it's killing my hands. I'm like, that was killing your hands, bro. I go, you probably held the pen your whole life. That was the only thing you did. I'm like, if that was hurting your hands, we need help. But like I tell guys, they want to lift weights with gloves. I go, if you forget them one day, you can't work out. Your hands are going to be fucked. I go, so build them up a little bit. I go, you want to build your body? How about building your hands a little bit? I built my hands against my will. I had no choice. You know what I mean?
It's sexy. Like calloused, strong hands on a man is hot.
Well, you think so. And I think women liking men is a dying breed. I really think so. I really do. Like men, I mean, my wife obviously likes fucking Neanderthals, but I think the far and in between. I think most women don't like Neanderthals. I see some men in the gym. I'm like, you're a man? I'm like, those are the shoes that you picked out. I'm like, and you have, I swear to God. Like, I'm a man. I like to think I'm a man, And I'm like, you're heterosexual and you picked out those shoes with the flowers. I'm like, doesn't make sense to me. You're suspect in my eyes.
The internet thinks I'm a man, and I'm like, well, if I'm more jacked than you, I think that's a problem. I'm sorry.
Yeah, soft America. That's a whole other podcast. We might have this. Allie now and I finally got warmed up into the area we want to talk. We might have a volume 2 because I like this one.
No, I can go off on that stuff, and it's actually nice because you don't feel so alone. Because you post things and it's like you get hate for it, and it's just the hate is just constant every day. But people just tear apart things that have no relevance to the actual joke. And I'm like, yo, we're going down these deep fucking rabbit holes that like clearly there's some trauma there. And I'm literally bringing up jokes that have been around for probably since you were born,
And people like, oh, they get all twisted in their underwear about it.
Yeah, guys are like, I wear gloves in the gym and I don't give a fuck what you think. That's great.
I'll be like, I don't really care, but you know what? You're soft anyway. You shouldn't wear gloves. Yeah. I used to wear dude, like the boxing gym I go to, right? The guy Keith who trains us, he's like the Neanderthal men or whatever. And I was wearing a belt one day lifting weights. He's like, why don't you stop wearing a belt and be strong? And like, he's such a Neanderthal, right? And fucking, I'm like, all right, bro. And then like, he's like, yo, just stop using all that shit. He goes, do you want to be strong or this? And like, I think I fucked myself up a couple of times because I listened to this fucking guy not using things, deadlifting heavy. And like, I popped something in my back or popped my ass cheek or whatever it was, So anyway, soft America. I 100% agree with you. And you and I have to harden people up a little bit more. Maybe they'll listen to me. I don't know. Any which way, this was a good one, Allie. Thank you for coming on. I love your podcast room. And Zane, we got to build some shit like that, right? I got a room in my basement. I think by looking at that, this is what I got to do. I love it. Really cool.
It was really easy. I'll send you, you know, what I put on the walls off Amazon because Bedros has like a similar.
No, it looks dope. I know. Yeah. And thank you for coming on. And maybe we'll do this again. All right.
Having me. Finally, we made it happen.
Finally, we meet. All right, Allie. Thank you.